everybody, and welcome to the Maria Gonçalves podcast. I'm your host, Maria Gonçalves, and today we have a special guest, Craig Allen, all the way from Hawaii. So, welcome, Craig.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here, and it's great to see you today.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. So, I'm going to read a bio so you guys get to know Craig a little bit more. Craig Allen is a gifted psychic and medium residing in the Big Island of Hawaii with a passion for helping others connect with the spiritual realm. Craig offers virtual readings that blend his psychic and mediumistic abilities. He has honed his skills through training at the esteemed Arthur Findley College, known for its dedication to spiritual development. And recently, Craig has begun showcasing his talents to live audiences, traveling across the United States to conduct in-person sittings at expos. That's amazing. And his work not only enriches the lives of individuals seeking guidance, but also brings a sense of connection and comfort to those navigating the complexities of life. So, welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
I am super excited to have you here. So, one of the questions that I love to ask all of my guests, when did your mediumship abilities come in? Or were you always a medium as a little kid?
I had experiences with the spirit world as a child, um, but I grew up in a really conservative, religious environment, and so I wasn't able to sort of like understand those experiences or embrace those experiences until I was an adult. I remember having my first tarot reading when I was 18 years old. And so that was, I love to get readings. I've always loved to get readings. And I think I've always had the interest in in tarot cards and in private sittings. And I think I watched every episode of John Edwards on
Yes,
television.
I remember
So
that.
yeah, so I think I've always had that curiosity, and I've had some experience with that, but I don't think it really woke up until to me until like 9 years ago to actually sort of decide to sort of like live my potential.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to do readings on yourself, and then your closest friends, but then you start doing your friends of friends and start branching out that way. And that's how it started about 9 years ago.
Oh, that's so fascinating. I see that you offer tarot readings.
Yeah, that's
So,
how I started. I started reading tarot cards a long time ago, and I was really passionate about it. I still like to use my tarot cards. I don't use them a whole lot in my one-to-one sittings occasionally. Um, it just depends on how if I'm drawn to it. Um, but I enjoy that. I like the connection and how it can help you open your mind.
yeah, I am curious because I am a tarot lover. Like I
Uh-huh.
love art. I
Yeah.
love the artwork. Do you have a favorite tarot deck?
I do. It's called the Gilded Tarot,
Oh,
and
that one. Yes.
that's what I started with. And they look like they've been through a world war at this point because I mean they've just like they're all different. They're not real even, and they're all kind of swollen, and some are peeling. But I just always use the same deck. So
That deck, it's the colors are vibrant in that deck, correct?
they used to be. Mine's so old, and it's kind of worn quite a bit. But I've done a lot of readings with those, and so I'm a little sentimental about the messages I've given through those cards, and so there's a
Wow.
familiarity of how they fit in my hand because they've curled just enough. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
They sound like they are very well loved by you. And I love
They are, and well worn. And someday I'll probably give them to someone, but I just haven't decided who.
that's okay. You don't have to decide today, so you're good. So I know one of your passions is your development. So do you want to speak about that?
Yeah. So I think developing as a psychic and then developing mediumistically is a little bit of difference. It still operates with the same sort of power and the same, but the awareness is different. And so when I started out as a tarot reader, um, I mean, it was strictly psychic. But then, I learned how to connect using the tarot cards mediumistically. And and that was just based with my intention. So with that being said, when I really decided to embrace mediumship within myself, I didn't want to rely on a tool, because I was feeling reliant on my tarot cards. Like I couldn't do a reading, I couldn't, access, mediumship levels unless I had tarot cards to
Yeah.
open my mind. And so it was really important to sort of develop myself and utilize myself as the tool. And so that development has been really important. And the thing that has helped me the most is sitting in the power. Sitting
Yeah.
in the power, it's a practice that I started in, when I started, I could sit and still my mind for about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. And so can sit in the power for an hour, and I sit in the power twice a day,
Oh,
morning,
nice.
morning and night. And it's really helped me understand myself and be able to express myself in my mediumship and really strengthen my connection with the spirit world.
Wow. I remember when I started sitting in the power, I was like good for 2 minutes. I was good for
Right,
2 minutes.
it's hard. It's hard. You have to think, did I feed the animals today? Do I wonder what they're doing? What are the dogs doing? What do I have to do the rest of my day? And it's about giving yourself permission, to just be.
Oh, I agree. So, for those of you that are listening to the podcast and you're trying to sit in the power and you're really struggling, please be patient. You will eventually end up sitting for an hour because I feel like I crave the quiet. Like, if I miss a day of sitting in the
Yeah.
power, I feel out of sorts. But it's just like that day I couldn't, and then I get back into it, and it's like, "Oh, I could breathe again." So please be patient with yourselves as you're going on this journey, and maybe it's just 5 minutes, and then another 5 minutes, and another 5 minutes, and you just slowly build, right?
Yeah. So giving yourself the permission out of your day and your time is one thing, but I think allowing yourself to access the memories within yourself, allowing yourself to actually walk through what has made each of us and made me, the good and the bad. And and so I think that's what I've really focused on in my development with my sitting in the power. And just, some days if I have a hard time, I may sit for 30 minutes. Some days it's an hour at a time. But you can't force it. You just have to just let it happen. Let it organically grow, the stillness that you can maintain.
That is so interesting. And then I am curious, has your mediumship abilities changed over the years?
It has. You know, where where I think I started was more of just random facts about people, and there was a time I felt good about that, just being able to identify some facts about people. And but really that doesn't bring that soul alive, to
Yeah.
people. And I think what's really needed is the story. It's the story of why they're coming forward, the story of their life, of as to it's not just it's me and I'm here. It's the story of why. And I think that's really important to remember in mediumship.
That is my favorite part is stories. The
Yeah.
memories? And I
Right.
think too,
Right.
it's because of the way I grew up. Like growing up with my grandmother, we would sit around the fire pit and they would tell stories of our ancestors, like, "Oh, your great grandfather." Not that I remember people, I don't remember any of those stories. But some of them I do, and now my mom tells the stories, and then I get to tell my kids stories about my own personal life. So I love it when doing mediumship readings, bringing the stories. So when you do mediumship readings, what is your favorite part in the mediumship reading? Is it the stories or is it more the names? Like, I don't know.
Um, I think my favorite part is that feeling of being lifted up in the spirit world. I enjoy that kind of feeling because I feel almost a healing within myself, as in with my sitter. Um, and so when you can actually feel the power in the room and feel that presence, and when you sort of become the communicator and you move to the communicator, and that is the most exciting part, when you can really blend and come together.
Yeah.
For me, that's what I really enjoy. They're never the same. There's no format
Yeah.
of how to do a contact, because we all have unique lives and unique experiences, and those we may have similar experiences, but uh, but the whole collection of statements and the whole collection of information should just be specifically to you and your life.
Yeah.
So that's what I love that. I love the uniqueness of it.
I find that super interesting because I know I've received a reading from you, and I think I'm trying to remember, you brought through my grandfather and you got his likeness and you got his mannerisms, and it was
Right.
just it was so beautiful to watch because for those of you that are listening, maybe you go to one medium and I don't know, maybe you really want to connect to your mom or your dad or your grandfather, and then you go to another medium and it's completely different. And that's the beauty in it because you bring through different pieces of their lives. So I always find that super interesting. Um, with that, so for people that are new to this journey, what would you recommend they do?
I'd say that the biggest the most important thing that people do is, you know, align yourself with a mentor or a teacher. um, Disconnect from any sort of fear, um, because this is facilitated by love, and there is some. I think that there are levels of fear in the mysticism of mediumship, of psychic work, and I think really disconnecting and understanding how it's facilitated through love
Mhm.
um, really disbands that fear. And
Yes.
and so I would say find a mentor, let go of preconceived ideas or things people have told you, or fears about the spirit world, and then just, you know, approach it with a child's mind, with a curiosity, and then just learn to be yourself. That's the most important thing, because mediumship is about you, because we're spiritual beings, and I think that's when you really recognize your mediumship, is when you really understand that you are a spiritual soul that lived before here, and will continue to live after we discard, and move on. So I think that is really important, is understanding that about yourself.
I've always heard the statement, "You are your mediumship." So what do you think about that statement?
And that's why I I have chosen in my path to really work on my development, because I know that my mediumship is a reflection of who I am. It's a reflection of my own experiences in life. It's a reflection, it's a vulnerability of being who you truly are in front of other people, or sharing that with a group. And so I have chose to sort of really focus on my development, sit in the power, understand all of the experiences that come up in my sitting in the power, and and just have learned to understand that that has made me who I am, because I know if I learn to accept everything that has happened in life, that, my mediumship will grow, will grow along with that development.
Do you find when you do readings that there'll be a theme for readings? Like for 1 week, it'll all be focused on a certain topic, and then that's a reflection with things that are happening within your own life. Like I've noticed that for myself.
I don't notice a theme. I notice that sometimes um, I will I will do readings on people who have like either lost children, and I'll do several of those in a row. And I feel like it's a bit of a conditioning for myself, that because there's no chance as to how someone sits with you. It's that is driven by spirit. It's the intelligent nature of spirit that will influence people to have a meeting or have a crossing and a connection. But I have had readings where, like, and also at expos, where I've had readings back to back where people, it's been, consistently about their children or about their loved ones, in like their spouses, you know. But each reading is always uniquely different to that person.
Yeah.
So I never connect a theme of myself to their story, but I connect my emotions to the understanding of what's going on with them.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe theme is not the right word, but like for me, it seems like there will be a topic, and I notice there's always lessons in it for myself. So I always find that super interesting. Like when my
Yeah,
dad passed away, then the people that came to me, all of a sudden I could find everybody whose father just passed away that month. Like that's what I meant when I was saying, like,
right.
I don't know if it's themes or what the proper word is. But yeah, I always find it so interesting how spirit does that. Is there I'm always curious about readings. Is there a reading that has ever stood out for you that has touched your heart? I know they all touch our hearts, but has anyone ever where you're like, oh wow, spirit, that was interesting how you did that?
And I think it was last month I did a demonstration, and it was a mother that came through, and I went direct, to her. I knew who I was with immediately, um, and put out my information. And then I delivered my message to her, and then I moved on to my next contact. I did another contact, and as I finished that, I still felt the presence of that woman's mother, and that I left something out of the message, and it was I I said, I know I'm back with you, and I want to apologize for the mess that you had to clean up of all my stuff and my collections and the things I should have went through. And I want to apologize for that. And but she was, I think, in the physical life, she was a pretty pushy person, and so she made her way back in line and decided that she wanted to give another message to her other daughter sitting in the room, and it was a completely different message. But she wanted to make sure both of her children in that room had a message from her. And I follow who shows up. I don't choose. So
Yeah.
that was an interesting experience.
I love that. So you just reminded me of an experience I had. Uh, what was it? After my dad passed away, it was like 2 days. Uh, yeah, 2 days after we buried him, I was receiving a spiritual assessment. So
Mhm.
that's not a mediumship reading. That's all about me and my
Right.
mediumship abilities. Didn't my dad come through too? My dad pushed, and he's like, I didn't set the intention. I don't know where your dad's here. But my dad was very, because I feel like they bring their personality through after they
They
cross.
do. Yeah.
And my dad was just determined, like, I'm giving you a reading. I don't care if it's a spiritual assessment. I am coming through and I am giving you a reading. So I love when spirit does that. Just saying that because it is their personality, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing to realize in a reading is that what you need is going to come through. Your greatest need, whether it is a communication or if it is something, psychic that you need to be aware of or allow or that there is your need is going to come through when you sit with someone that it opens up the awareness of the spirit world.
I think that's amazing. So I'm curious because that happened with my dad right after he passed away. Have you ever had an experience where you received a reading? You're like, oh wow, I'm surprised they came through, or look at how they came through. I always find it so amazing how they do that.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes I have heard from people that I was shocked that they came through, and but I really think that they came through because of allowing me to sort of process my own emotions,
Yeah.
and and that was the only way they can help me. And I can think of a couple people who um I had experiences with that, relationships that ended poorly and things that could have all been done better. And and so I feel like they came forward for me so I can sort of like let go of those emotions,
Yeah.
acknowledge them.
Yeah. I find it so powerful. I really do. And so heartwarming how spirit, like you said, like they come in for the person with the greatest needs.
Yes.
Because I will say this, before my dad passed away, I went to two mediumship demonstrations, and I didn't do this on purpose, people. I felt like I was the sitter, the person sitting in the audience being the hogger. Because every communication, I think one person got a reading that night. They're all for me. So do you
Yeah.
want to speak to that? Like, why does that happen? I always find that super fascinating.
Um, it is for your need. It is that's all I can tell you. It is I have seen demonstrations like that. And the last demonstration I did experience with a mother, I felt like she was sort of hogging the mic also. It was just what was needed for those people to either move on. But I also think in a demonstration, what's what's also needed is the need of the audience. It's the need of everyone else there because sometimes other people in the audience, they're sharing that same mystical experience, and sometimes they need a name. Sometimes it may be important for someone to know that, like, oh, they got their name. So, to for them to understand and embrace that spiritual experience. But I don't feel the spirit world needs a name. I think they just need to be able to say, yes, it's me. But I feel like the intelligent nature is that they know the need of the room.
Yeah. I
And
like how you said that, the balancing act,
yeah,
because it's a spirit world, but it's also the person sitting there. I love
right.
that.
Because when you think about in a demonstration, um, everyone benefits in that situation because I mean, like, I know from watching years of John Edwards on television how much I loved watching that and how I could sit there in tears myself, and it wasn't for me, but that's when you know that you are feeling and experiencing um the experience of the room.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I do. I love that. One of my favorite things about mediumship demonstrations, because I go to as many as I can, and not with the intention that I need a reading. I love that magical moment. Yes, I'm going to call it that magical moment when the medium and the sitter and the the medium gives that one piece of evidence, whatever that is, because sometimes it doesn't have to be a name, an address, a phone number. It could just be, I don't know, a word or something simple or a color. But it's that aha moment where the person receiving the reading, sorry, is like, oh my goodness, they got my person. Their soul still lives on. I cry every time because and I love that moment in time, and then I get to be a witness to that moment in time.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about the demonstration is how moved you can be when you leave by the healing that happens uh from, a dad to his son, or a mom, to her son or daughter. And
Yeah.
so that is it's a great experience to watch. I feel honored to always be able to be part of that experience. And so it's always a great honor to do that. And every demonstration is different. The communicators and the audiences are different. Some audiences, they just want to sit back and like prove it, and those are hard. Those are tough audiences, when you have reluctancy of people wanting to raise their hand. And um, so
Yes, but then isn't that when you fall back on your training and you just trust spirit? When everybody's like, "No, no, no," and you're like, "I know I have your loved one."
correct, correct. And I think it's also, you have to wait out the reluctancy of some people saying, well, maybe it's for someone else. I don't want to draw attention to myself. Um, I want to see if it's for anyone else first.
Yeah,
But your information, if you're giving practical evidence when you come out, it should make sense to one person. And if you have a couple people raising their hand, you should be able to separate very quickly to one person. And that's important. Because I have spent in my past, I have spent too much time trying to get down to one person. And it's it's really important to do that quickly, because the contact, it isn't endless. There's only a time frame of how the power is held with the
yeah.
communicator. So
I find that super interesting. So here's something that I hear a lot of people do at demonstrations. I've seen it happen. I'm just like, what? uh, where the medium's doing the contact and the person's just like, I'm not going to say yes until you, whatever conversation they have with their spirit person before they went into the demonstration. It's like, no, they have to come in and say, like, I don't know, pink car. If they don't say the words pink car, I'm not going to take it. So for people that have that mindset, what would you like to say to those people? I say, don't do it.
yeah, you can't have an expectation of of a combination, because the spirit world, I have to understand through my own emotions, my contact of what I sense and what I
Yeah.
see or what I hear. And so, I'm not having an experience where I'm talking like I am to you with the spirit world. I have an awareness of almost standing in the shadow, and being able to feel, the emotions, and where I'm at or what I'm doing or what I'm experiencing. So if you're attending a demonstration, you just have to be open. You have to understand. And I try to articulate that before I begin, that like, invite your loved ones, keep an open mind, and let's see what happens. And the spirit world's always shown up. They've always, I've worried if they were going to show up a few times, but they've always showed up. And so that's, yeah, it just come with an open mind. that's
Come with
that's
an
it.
open mind. No expectations. Yes.
Yeah,
No laundry
yeah,
list.
because I think we all have our people in spirit that we want to talk to.
Yeah.
We all have that, and we all have things that to we want healing from. But in the end, we have to trust the intelligence of the spirit world. We have to trust the knowledge that they come with, and that, they come forward out of free will. They're not summoned by people. Just because you want it doesn't mean you're going to get it. And so that's been my experience.
I
The
find it,
greatest need comes forward.
yes, I find it so interesting that you said we can't summon them. Because I find it interesting, and I think this has happened to me, or I think it has happened to me. I'm trying to remember where you go in for a reading and they'll be like, oh, because I've had mediums say this, oh, who would you like me to connect with? I was like, oh, sure, I really want to connect with my aunt. But my uncle comes through. And I find it super interesting because I'm like, no, no, I really want my aunt. But I needed to hear from my uncle. And then I walk away um so much better than I went there. So like you say, like we can't summon them. We can't.
Correct. Right.
We have to accept who comes in because the spirit world knows best for us.
I always say that free will was the gift given to us by our creator. And it's a gift, but sometimes it's a hard gift, because that free will also continues into the spirit world, and it is only comes forward for love. And so um as much as probably some of my sitters would like to hear from Elvis, they don't have a connection to Elvis Presley. And yeah, so it's not about sort of like summoning a spirit forward. It is about your need, and the spirit world responding to your need. It's
Yeah.
just what you need in your life, whether it's emotional or practical information.
Is that invitation to the spirit world and see who shows up. I love it.
Right,
It's like a surprise.
right.
So I am curious, do you have a favorite? I'm always curious. Is it like the demonstration? Is it the one-on-one readings, or they're both equal? Like you love them both?
So I went to AFC this year, and that was the first time I ever demonstrated.
Oh,
And
wow.
I knew that I wanted to demonstrate in the sanctuary, and I did. I got to work in the sanctuary, and I got to work in the lecture room, and had great contacts. It was wonderful. Um, and that's where that came to the surface, that it's something I really want to do. It was because I've only done private sittings up until this year. And so it was such a free feeling being, you know, being in front of an audience, the power of the audience, and then, you know, um, that it was a very exhilarating feeling doing a demonstration. And so that's where I'm really starting working on myself now. I've done 5 demonstrations now on my own uh,
Nice.
this year, so that's been exciting.
That's
I
amazing. And
Yeah,
congratulations going to
thanks.
AT. I went once. It's beautiful there.
It is. It's a great. I had a great experience. Great experience. Um, it was wonderful. One of the things I do in my demonstrations that I'm working on is I connect to the spirit world the morning of my demonstration,
Yeah.
um, and I write out a contact, and I name the row and the seat that they're going to sit in.
Oh, that's so cool.
So, and I keep those as mementos, and I will also give them to my recipients a copy. I'll email a copy to them. But that's been something I've been working on developing,
Yeah.
and it's my last contact in my demonstration, and that's been fun. It's been really fun to do.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. For myself, within my mediumship, in the beginning was more intense with spirit, and now I'm in cross your fingers, and I'm in like, I 100% trust because I do not sense spirit until I open my mouth. It's wild.
Mhm.
'Cause
So
it
you start expressing, yeah.
yes, because for a lot it started happening at the beginning of the year, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, they've disappeared." And my mentor's like, "No, no, your mediumship's just changing." I was like, "But I don't feel them. Where are they?" She's like, "It's okay. It's happened to me." And yeah, and this was with I remember having this conversation with one of my mentors, and she's like, "Yeah, I get on the platform, and it's not until I say like, 'Ladies and gentlemen,' and she goes, 'And then you know you got somebody there.'" So I love that, like, spirit, like, shows up a little bit earlier for you. Just so lucky.
So, and the reason I do that is it is a gift and ability I want to work on, and it helps me with my own trust with the
Yeah.
spirit world and with my guides. Um, and that's why that's another reason I like to do that.
Did
Um,
you just do that? The thumbs up or spirit did that?
yeah, yeah, my hand gestures. Sorry. Um,
I'm going with spirit world. Just give you a thumbs up for that comment. Yes.
so, but when I started, when I was at AFC, I remember because all my connections that I did before AFC was just private sittings.
Yeah.
And I work pretty much virtual, either on the phone or in Zoom or occasionally in person sittings. But what's interesting is going from like sitting to standing. That was different for me. Like, okay, I have to stand up. And so I was like, set this intention with myself. As soon as I stand up, um, I want to feel my communicator. And so, but I remember in the lecture room, I didn't feel my communicator until one foot hit the stair of the
Nerve
stage.
wracking. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and then, it was great contact. It was wonderful, but it was like, "Okay." And then so, when I did my first demonstration, in the public by myself, I wasn't sure how to stand or where to be, so I sat in a chair on the side, and then I was like, "Okay, just stand up." So, yeah, it was baby steps with myself to be able to sort of, stand and feel the presence of the spirit world with me.
You know what I love about what you said, and for those that are listening today, it's a relationship with the spirit world that we're building,
Yeah,
right?
it
And
is.
how does it work? And that's why we sit in the power to connect with spirit, to build the trust, to, like he said, like he takes one step and he knows when that step lands, boom, spirit's going to show up. At least
Right.
that's the way it's working right now. Because remember, they change.
It's gonna change. It will change. I have no doubt it'll change. But, it's been, baby steps for myself and, but the relationship that you have with your guides and that you do develop and your understanding in your sitting in the power, and, that's why you can't hurry what you're doing. You
True.
have to allow it to come forward naturally. Because if you try to force something, it just doesn't work. You're not ready, you're not prepared emotionally or physically. And so the sitting in the power prepares you. It prepares you for the experience, whether it's trust, understanding, or just like the stillness of mind, so that your own thoughts aren't crashing your demonstration or your sitting.
Yeah. You reminded me years ago when I first started sitting in circle was interesting because there would be conversations with other mediums uh, about becoming stronger mediums, and they would sit in more circles. I couldn't do that because I would just get the energy, because I feel like you take on the energy of your mentor too, because then you're in that space and you're learning. And I would just be like, "How many circles did you sit in?" 10. I did 10, Maria. I was like, that's a lot for me because I find when you're sitting in circle, I don't know about you, but like you build that rapport with those other mediums in the circle, and then for me anyway, stay with them for years. But I just, in the beginning, I did do, like, I kind of did what they did. And then it was like, I can't do this anymore because I found it so confusing. Like you said, like it takes time. You can't rush it. So while you guys are listening to me, permission not to join 10 circles in 1 week, different circles, because you can't rush it, just like Craig said.
I don't think if you're going to develop as a medium, I don't think it's about practice at all.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about practice because I think it's about realizing who you are and where you came from. That is how you become a medium.
Yeah. Accepting who you are.
Yes. Yeah, and accepting, and I think even if you're not like a medium, you can, in the sense of doing sittings or readings, we are all spiritual beings. And whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a school teacher, there's still a spiritual aspect to what you do. There's a spiritual, and recognizing that potential of of how you react or what you add into the world is, I think, important
Oh,
because this isn't for everybody. I mean, uh, you know, uh, it's not for everyone. But we're all having spiritual beings having this human experience.
yeah. I find when we get to where we're at, where you're doing the mediumship, the one-on-one readings and the demonstrations, now it's a calling, part of your soul's calling, right? Just like somebody's soul's calling might be to be a doctor, to be a teacher, to be a nurse. It's like each being of service to humanity. And I feel like
Yes.
this too is a calling of service to humanity to connect with their loved ones and pass messages of healing. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
it is a calling, and it is and I think if every medium would look back in their life uh, um through adult eyes, and you recognize those characteristics that you had as a child, as a young adult, that sort of the empathy feeling that you would have had as a child or a young adult, you can recognize those qualities of those mediumistic qualities in yourself.
Yeah, I love that. You know what? I have so enjoyed this conversation with you. And where can people find you if they want to connect with you and get a reading from you? Where are
Uh,
you
the
going to
best
be next?
The best way to find me is on my website, which
Okay.
is craigallenpsychicmedium.com. I do post my events. My next event is going to be in North Carolina at the Body, Mind, Spirit. I'll be doing a demonstration and private one-on-one sittings. And I also do sittings from my home through Zoom or phone sessions. And that's the best way to find me.
I love it. So I'm going to have all of those contacts available for you guys to reach out to Craig. I absolutely love Craig. We met a few months ago and I was like, I have to have you on my podcast because he has this really, you really do. You're so calming and so grounding. Maybe because you sit a lot in the power, I don't know, but just something about you. And I just find it so calming. So don't forget, if you guys want to reach out to him, I'm going to have his website. He does have live events. I was on his website. He does post all his live events. So if you're fortunate enough to go out, go see him, go meet him, go get a reading. All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Bye-bye.